All right, so making a video here comparing the Neo 2 to the Neo, and I'm not going to necessarily say that you should upgrade from the Neo to the Neo 2, which is what I did. I'm just going to explain why I decided to upgrade, because initially when this Neo 2 came out, I looked at the features and I was like, well, it doesn't seem like it's that much better. I'll just stick with the Neo, and I kind of regretted that because um, some of the features that I'm using now in the Neo 2 are just a lot better. So I'm just going to explain my reasoning as to why I decided to do the upgrade, but they may not necessarily apply to you. So don't take this as a video that I'm trying to push the Neo 2. If you've got the Neo and you're happy with it and it's working well for you, then yeah, there's obviously no reason to upgrade. There's a few specific reasons why I decided to upgrade to the Neo 2, and that's what I'm going to get into in this video. But before I get into those specific reasons, I do want to lay down some groundwork here as to a comparison of the spec differences. They aren't that different, but there are differences. So I'm going to put up a couple of charts here on the screen and comparing the Neo 2 to the Neo. So the Neo 2 specs are going to be on the left and the Neo on the right. So the Neo 2 is a little bit heavier. Obviously, you can see here a little bit bigger props. And it does have slightly better video specs. So the Neo does only 4K 30, while the Neo 2 does 4K 60 and 4K 100. Also, improving the video quality is the 2-axis gimbal. So the Neo 2 has a 2-axis gimbal and the Neo 1 only has a 1-axis gimbal. So where that comes into play is, well, it actually provides better stability and also higher resolution in terms of what you get, because there's less electronic image stabilization cropping that's going on. So that's something I didn't realize that was going on between these two models. And after I've seen the videos for my own footage on these two, I can tell that the image is less cropped in and the processing is a little bit better. Now, the Neo 2 has all of these omnidirectional sensors. So there's this little camera here in the back, on the top and on the bottom, and then there's a LiDAR sensor in the front. So it does have better obstacle avoidance. The Neo 1 only has a downward facing sensor, and that is it. Otherwise, there's no optical avoidance at all. Because this is bigger and has bigger props, the Neo 2 is actually a lot faster, by about 50% on tracking speed. So 12 meters per second versus 8 meters per second on the Neo 1. And where this came in handy for me is when I do my e-bike and scooter reviews. I found that the Neo was a little bit slow. I would have to kind of watch my speed in terms of making sure that the Neo could track me, whereas the Neo 2, I could pretty much go as fast as I want and it has no problems keeping up. In terms of onboard storage, it's 49 gigabytes, more than double on the Neo 2 versus the Neo. So that's that basically means you can record more footage and not have to offload it as often. There's a little bit more flight time on the Neo 2, but it's not much different. I found that it's pretty much the same between these two models. And then the biggest feature for me on the Neo 2 is the gesture support, or the gesture control. This is a big help, because I put the Neo in the air, put it into follow mode, and place it where I want, do my bike ride or walking, whatever I need to do, and then adjust the positioning of the Neo 2 to a different location to get some slightly different angles. It's very easy to do, and I made a whole video on that already. I'll link that in the video description if you want to see a demo of that one. That is the main feature I decided to get the Neo 2, is the gesture control. You don't have that on the Neo 1. Not sure why they can't add that. I wish they would. If they did, I probably wouldn't have bought the Neo 2. So obviously, DJI is really smart in how they, roll out their features to get people to upgrade. But that was the main feature. With the Neo, you'd have to whip out the phone, readjust the angle. It's very tedious and time consuming. With the Neo 2, it's extremely fast. You really don't have to even think about it. It does make the workflow in terms of using the Neo 2 a lot better. And then the max Wi-Fi range is significantly more in the Neo 2 versus the Neo. I've done videos on this. I did a video on this one already. I'll link that as well in the video description. Basically, the Neo 2 has basically GPS return to home and can go up to 500 meters, whereas the Neo can only do up to 50 meters. So the Wi-Fi range is significantly less. So as you can see here, I just bought the drone only with one battery, and that is the lowest cost. I think on Amazon right now it's $260. I bought this on an Amazon Black Friday special that came, I mean, literally was out for like 20 minutes, and I got it for $239, $240. So a little bit less, but right now it's $260 on Amazon. Pretty good deal. And I'm going to try and maximize the use case of just the drone only with the battery, which is actually quite a bit, because if you have 500 meters of Wi-Fi range with just your phone, you don't need to get the transmission module or the controller, any of those other things if you don't want to, although it does still have the same versatility that the Neo has in terms of, you can connect it to the RC controller, the FPV controller, to the goggles, so you can fly at FPV. There's a lot of versatility that these two drones have that a lot of the other models don't have. And I'll demonstrate those features in a future video. I'm still waiting for the transmission module. I ordered that separately, and I'll explain later as to why I decided to go the drone only first. But yeah, there'll be more videos where I'm going to try and maximize just the one battery, because you can do quite a bit of filming with just one battery and a power bank, and then in between your shots when the drone is not in the air, you can plug it into a power bank and charge it up. But I'll have a separate video on that. Now, in terms of the actual camera quality, as I mentioned, there's 4K 60, 4K 100 on the Neo 2. The 2-axis gimbal does help as well. And I thought because they both have the same half-inch sensor, and I'm showing another chart here, they both have the same size sensor. I thought, it's how much different can the image quality be? It can't be that much different. So you get the additional 4K 60, 4K 100, but you also get 2.7K at 60 for vertical video, whereas you only get 1080p 60 for vertical video on the Neo. And I found out later that the aperture on the Neo 2 is actually a little bit smaller. f2.2, it's a little bit more light, whereas it's f2.8 on the Neo 1. And that makes a small, but somewhat important difference in terms of being able to take video in slightly less super bright conditions. So maybe like more towards sunset. You might get better results with the Neo 2. I haven't really fully tested that yet, but in theory, based on the aperture being smaller, that should definitely help. And then because they're using a different lens, of course, the field of view is a little bit wider. It's 119.8 versus 117.6 on the Neo. That, in addition to the 2-axis gimbal, does make the field of view significantly wider on the Neo 2, which makes a pretty big difference. Now, the color profile is still standard in both these. There's no D-Log M, and it still records in 8-bit color. So that's a limiting factor on the Neo 2. Maybe down the road they'll include D-Log M or 10-bit color at some point, but I'm not sure if that's ever going to happen during the lifetime of this product, maybe for the Neo 3. But yeah, in terms of the color profile, it's pretty much the same, but the image quality is a little bit better on the Neo 2 versus the Neo. It's not a huge difference, but the larger field of view and the less processing that's going on in the Neo 2 does seem to make the image quality a little bit better on the Neo 2. So some of you may have noticed I do have the ND filter magnet there from Freewell on the Neo 2. I just transferred it over from the Neo 1. I've heard that it does work, although the lenses are the filters are a little bit smaller, and the lens opening is a little bigger on the Neo 2. So I heard in photo mode you'll get some vignetting. I haven't tested it yet, so I'm going to be doing that in a future video. So if you do have the Neo 1 and you have the ND filters already, I literally just transferred over the magnetic adapter to the Neo 2, and it does seem to work. And the testing so far, I haven't seen the adapter in my video feed, so I've heard that it doesn't show up in video, but it might show up in photo mode, which actually has a different aspect ratio, like 4:3. Again, I'll make a video later on that to demonstrate the ND filter and how to capture a little bit better video with some settings to your camera settings on the Neo 2. But yeah, I'm gonna end the video here. I just wanted to make a video explaining the differences between these two models and the reasons why I decided to upgrade this to the Neo 2 when I originally did not think that I would need these features, but it turns out that they're, especially the gesture control, was extremely invaluable for the kind of stuff that I wanted to use it for. Now, of course, none of those things that matter to me will matter to you. And if that's the case, stick with the Neo 1. It's a good drone, still very, very good video and very useful. And as you see, I still use it. Still hanging out here, although now that I'm pretty much using the Neo 2 all the time, not sure if I'm going to be keeping this around too much longer because obviously the features overlap, and while this is a little bit bigger, while the Neo is a little bit smaller and lighter, what I would use this for, just they basically function the same. So pretty much deciding, I think at this point, I'm going to be selling off the Neo at this point and just going with the Neo 2 for pretty much everything. But yeah, I'll have more videos on this one. Again, as I mentioned, I'll cover the ND filters. I'm going to cover how to get the most out of just one battery. And then I do have the transmission module coming later. I do have a regular RC controller and an FPV controller, and also be using this with the goggles. So a lot more videos and content coming out on this model in the future. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to check out those videos. And again, I'll link everything down in the video description as always. Questions, comments, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.